как и было предсказано чуть ранее.
As I predicted a little bit earlier today, we are now back to our sessions. Have you ever thought about how much the pandemic has transformed the payment industry? According to BCG, Russia ranks among the top 5 global leaders in terms of the transition from cash to cashless payments. Currently, there is an acquiring system which accounts for 90% of all payments. China today is a leading country in manufacturing payment terminals. Many people are transitioning towards cashless transactions. The new technologies are instrumental. The growing use of contactless payments and other forms of digital payments is a major transformation, contributing to the rapid transition to a cashless economy. What cutting-edge cashless payment technologies will be used in the future? What are the implications of the transition from a cash-based to a cashless society? These are the questions that we will discuss today at our session, Fly Me to the Moon, from Cashless to Cardless. It is my pleasure to welcome to the stage our panelists, Sviatoslav Ostrovsky, board member, VTB Bank. Alexander Hanin, CEO, MTS AI. And the moderator of our session is Innovation Director at Skolkovo Foundation, Pavel Novikov. Joining us online are Mikhail Berner, Group Country Manager, Visa Russia, and Juan Pablo Ortega, co-founder and head of RappiBank. Hello, hello, hello. You know, I can tell who was here for the day one, because all of you who were here, you are sunburned. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our guests one more time. This is a unique session, and I do hope we will fly to the moon. Mikhail Berner, Group Country Manager from Visa. We just heard your colleagues talking about how the company looks for startups, about your payment system. Joining us today from Colombia is Juan Pablo Ortega, co-founder and head of RappiBank, a company that conquered Latin America, a true super app. Joining us today as well, Sviatoslav Ostrovsky is head of retail products and digital at VTB Bank, also a board member. VTB is growing enormously fast using technologies. We will discover today what technologies exactly VTB Bank is using. And here with us today we also have Alexander Hanin. Alexander is co-founder and chairman of the board of Vision Labs. It is a leading company in image and video recognition both in Russia and globally. Alexander is also here representing Artificial Intelligence Department at MTS. Let's start with something really simple. I'll mention it only once, this word. The pandemic happened, right? And it transformed the way we live, payments including. It changed our habits. And I would like to talk about Russia's experience. Russia is pretty advanced here. And to that, I will give the floor to Mikhail Berner. Mikhail, can you hear us loud and clear? What about you? 5 by 5. Okay, so Mikhail, tell us more about Visa.
Эффекты в прошлом году, потому что все хвастаются.
What are the main takeaways from the last year? Seems like everything was well for you. I mean, your stocks were going up, everyone transitioning to contactless payments. Yeah, so hello, very happy to join you here, albeit online. I see that the weather in Moscow is wonderful, many people watching, so hello everyone. For Visa, the last year wasn't really simple. I mean, there is probably not a single company on planet Earth who would tell you that 2020 was amazing. We took the company to a whole new level. But it is true that many things happened that changed a lot in contactless payments. Many today think that the pandemic accelerated the digital transformation and that in a year we did as much as we would probably do in 3 years. And that is something that we see at our company. Many trends accelerated during the pandemic, that is true. And this acceleration happened thanks to our clients, thanks to our users and banks who issue Visa cards and all of the merchants who accept them as a means of payments. And of course, to our end clients, we extend a special thank you because they have our cards in their mobile phones, not only in their wallets, but in their mobile phones. So we saw last year a very significant growth of cashless transactions. That is indeed something that the pandemic accelerated. But looking at cashless payments, we saw a huge spike of contactless payments. Many people felt really ill at ease during the pandemic, having to use cash and even using their credit card and having to press buttons to insert their PIN code. And that is why we saw a surge in contactless technologies. The figures that we see in Visa indicate that this growth accelerated twofold in 2020 by 88%. And that is indeed the influence of the pandemic. Back in 2019, the growth was 78%, in 2018, 42%, and in 2020, 88%. We also see an increase in mobile payments. That is why I said that people do not have cards in their wallets, but rather in their phones. We saw a 30% growth, which is something we've never seen before. Russian market is advanced here. It is not by chance that Russia is named one of the 5 markets where digital transformation is happening faster. The pandemic accelerated it too, of course. We also saw a growth in transactions in e-commerce. During the lockdown, with all of the brick-and-mortar shops closed down, e-commerce flourished. In those online shops who would only receive payments through their delivery people in cash, they realized that during the pandemic they simply wouldn't make it without a payment terminal. E-commerce grew more than by 30% per year. We thought that it would peak during the lockdown and then that we would see a correction, and that is not what happened. We saw a very slight decrease, but still the surge in online payments in e-commerce, which amounted to plus 30%, is something that we still see today. And probably it will even get more accentuated, because we are now having more players who want to build their own ecosystems. And the third trend that I would love to talk about is the spread of marketplaces. For smaller companies, it was harder to compete with shops closed down, with certain difficulties that follow your own delivery system when you try to establish it. And that is why marketplace really thrived, thanks to smaller players who started to sell their goods via these marketplaces. The growth of marketplaces is still on the rise. And to sum up my first comment, there are three major trends: a lot of contactless payments, digital payments, greater share of e-commerce, and the advent of marketplaces. We saw that globally and in Russia. Thank you, Mikhail. Thank you
Классную статистику.
for these stats.
Большие игроки раскрывают
You know, it is pretty rare for some bigger players to disclose some figures, and you did just that.
Мы понимаем почему.
I mean, we understand the reason why people tend to conceal it.
Второе место в мире
Russia, according to our estimation, is the second country in the world to use Apple Pay, with the US ranking first.
в Латинской Америке.
What about Latin America, though?
¿Cómo estás?
Juan Pablo.
Well, so in Latin America, we had a huge change. Most of the countries went into lockdown from one day to another one. Countries like Colombia, Peru, and Mexico were completely closed, and the only people that you saw in the streets were our couriers bringing food, groceries to their house. So the only way for people to get their groceries was basically through delivery. Many grocery stores were closed, and the only way for people to buy stuff was through our app and different delivery apps. In the payment system, we saw the same shift right away. In our debit cards and credit cards, the transactions stopped coming from the real physical world and everything started going online. We saw a huge increase in e-commerce transactions and also in contactless. But we saw a different trend in contactless in different countries. Countries like Colombia, contactless became the new standard, and it helped that most of the terminals in the country had a contactless interface. Then in Mexico, for example, we didn't have the same adoption in merchants, so merchants didn't accept contactless, and we didn't see the shift as quick as it was in Colombia. The same thing happened in Chile and in different parts of the region where most of the terminals had contactless interfaces. But overall, another big shift that we have seen is, as Michael mentioned, is the rise of people moving into e-commerce platform. In Rappi, we saw a huge increase in demand. And even after the lockdowns have eased and people are starting to come back to the new normal and coming back to the restaurants and coming back to the regular life, what we're seeing is that people are still preferring to order online, to order their food with our applications instead of going to restaurants. And then we're also seeing the same trends in the grocery space. So we're seeing a huge increase of people ordering their groceries online, which in the past wasn't the case. We had I think a huge challenge in convincing different segments of the population to order their groceries online. And today, all of the age groups in the regions are purchasing their groceries in a higher percentage than before. Now, when looking at cash, so only in Rappi, cash market share is down
Juan Pablo,
52%.
let me interrupt you, okay?
Yeah.
Just one second. Я бы хотел сделать для наших гостей такое интро.
I would like to do a short intro for our audience. Juan Pablo is a co-founder of an absolutely fantastic super app.
Доставлялась еда. В пандемию действительно случилось чудо.
Initially, it was a delivery service, and during the pandemic, they were absolutely miraculous because they were saving people virtually by delivering groceries and food. And after that, they started to broaden the functions of their app to deliver medicines, toys, and whatnot. This company is a unicorn, which market cap is $4 billion. Am I right? Is this figure right?
Yes, that's correct.
Спасибо. И более 150 тысяч курьеров сейчас.
And more than 150,000 delivery people work for the company all across Latin America.
Для чего доставляют кэш?
And I know, Juan Pablo, that they also deliver cash. Why?
Yes. Well, cash is one of the preferred payment methods in the region. In Mexico, 85% of transactions under $25 are still done in cash. So it's not one of the safest regions in the world, so it's safer to order cash through Rappi. So if you need maybe to pay something, or if you need cash for anything, we create a service for that. So you go, you open the app, and a courier comes and bring cash. And we saw that people actually were sending each other cash using our application, and that's the main reason why we started RappiPay and RappiBank, because we saw that financial services were lacking and were behind so much that people prefer to pay each other sending a courier across the city with cash than instead of using a bank app. And that's the main reason why we're changing the way financial services are done, and we're introducing a credit card, a debit card to be able to offer better financial services so people stop using cash.
Juan Pablo, расскажи, пожалуйста.
Also, could you please tell us what payment system dominates Latin America today? What is the most important, the most popular one? And what about the contactless payments? Do you have a lot of them in Mexico? Do you have a lot of them in Brazil, in other countries? Do you know?
So it depends on the country. In Mexico, the preferred method is cash, and throughout the region, the preferred payment method is cash. We're seeing a change in that. In Colombia, banks are introducing e-wallets that enable you to pay using your bank account without having to have a card, so you can pay directly with your bank account, and we're seeing an increase with the pandemic of that. But even after looking at the latest figure, cash is still huge. It has decreased. It has lost almost half its market share when you look at different metrics, but still, in Colombia, for example, 70% of adults don't have a debit or a credit card. And this is huge because that's, I believe, the main reason why cash is still king. Now, looking at contactless, in Colombia, for example, 100% of the payment terminals accept contactless transactions, and we're seeing a rise. In Colombia, it has become a new standard, as Michael mentioned. In Russia, in Colombia, every time you give a card, they're going to do it with the contactless interface. In Mexico, it's completely different. Most of the terminals don't have the contactless interface, and even the ones that are enabled to accept it, cashiers are kind of scared of the contactless. When you try to pay with contactless, there is like a cultural thing that they don't want to accept it. And then you look at Brazil, and in Brazil is the other way around. In Brazil, credit card are huge. Credit card is a preferred payment method. In Rappi, for example, we don't accept cash most of the time. We only accept credit cards, which is completely different than the rest of the region. And then you look at other countries like Chile, and in Chile, 100% of payment terminals accept contactless transactions, and we're also seeing an increase in their market share.
Чили является лидером.
Chile is the leader here. And I know why. it's very much futuristic. It's very much like North America. They use the same technologies, so no wonder why they have 100% use of contactless payments. Juan Pablo, thank you so much. Now, I would like to give the floor to our next speaker, Svetoslav. What is happening in Russia right now? You keep your finger on the pulse. You're a dinosaur. Yes, I'm a dinosaur of this market. So you've seen a lot of things happen. You've seen a lot of revolutions, evolutions happen. In 2012, Privatbank issued an Android app which you could use to get money through a black box which worked through Bluetooth. So you didn't need a card, but it was 2012. No one really enjoyed doing this. No one liked it. Actually, it's a good idea to deliver cash. It's a good idea for some countries. It's a good solution. Now, let's go back 10 years. Let's recall what we had, and let's compare it to what we have today. Yeah, you said let's go back 10 years, and maybe it's a good idea. The COVID-19 pandemic is the talk of the town. It's been a huge problem, and many countries have been progressing way faster thanks to this pandemic. But they all started 10 years ago. So let's go back 10 years. Let's imagine what we had. Let's remember what we had back then. And people who left the country and came back, they know all the differences. For them, it's like a huge leap into the future. A couple of years ago, I couldn't pay with Apple Pay in the US, while in Russia I could do it anywhere. So you see, changes happen. This whole trend started a lot earlier. Russia, in a way, is unique because we, as people, we can leap over certain stages of technological development. In the 80s, everyone had computers. We didn't have any computers in Russia. We just jumped over this stage towards laptops, smartphones, and everything. Now, with cards have been around for a long time in Russia. It was gaining traction. It was gaining traction, and yesterday I looked up some things, and cards has been around for 40 years. Actually, 60 years if you look at some other sources. So it's not a new technology at all. And we are jumping over it in Russia. We never used cards that extensively. We just jumped over this technology. You see, we have a lot of innovators in Russia. They drive changes. And, you know, there is that idea that all that cash, all the ineffective things, we should get rid of them. We should do more technology-intensive kind of transactions. This revolution started 10 years ago in Russia. Russia used to have 10% of non-cash payments. Now we have 70%. As of last year, we have 70% of non-cash payments. There is just a handful of countries who have the same kind of performance. China. I know China is very good in that sense. And I see that there is that good idea with delivering cash with the help of couriers. That's amazing. So it's good to have a good union of state and market players. That union gives very good results. And it's good to see population who is ready to embrace changes. That's the key to progress. Now, we see that there is a lot of investments going into this. Digitalization is receiving more and more money, and we, as a company, invest more in this. Others do the same. And people really like new technologies. They like innovations. They're ready to use them and embrace this whole digital transformation. I'm one of the first people to start using and start promoting Apple Pay in Russia. And I was afraid that cashiers wouldn't like it, wouldn't say, okay, you can pay with Apple Pay. But it happened. There was no problems whatsoever. So people are really, really good in terms of using new technologies. Actually, There was a famous deal signed by Tinkoff and Koshelak.
Телефоне, что там какой-то костыльный, в общем, сделал платеж.
Koshelak, that's payment system, it
Ходили
rolled out an app a long time ago, and people who were, geeks
оборудованные все.
back 7-10 years ago, they wanted to pay their phones, and sometimes security were catching them. They thought, okay, those people using their phones to get money from an ATM, they must be some, criminals. So you see, yeah, some people are really, really afraid of using new technologies because culture can work against new technologies.
Мы еще любопытные достаточно.
Also, we Russians are very curious. That helps us with new technologies. We are very curious. And here is the fact.
Номер один страна по количеству
Number one country in terms of women with diplomas, with
сыграл на руку
bachelor's or master's degrees. That's Russia.
статистика от Нафика.
Also,
За
an
последние
interesting fact. Over the last 3 years, Russian has started to pay
с помощью
contactless 3 times more often,
носимых устройств.
using their smartphones, using bracelets,
Вы считаете,
wearables, smartphones, so 3 times. That's a lot. Do you think we can improve on this, or that's our limit? I think we can do more than this.
возможности оплаты.
I think we will see many more ways to pay. We have a lot of experimental form factors.
Банк,
We as a bank,
наш способ запуска, мы хотим дать максимум.
we want to give unlimited opportunities to our clients so they could choose whatever they want. There's a lot of instruments to do transactions,
Форм-факторов очень много.
a lot of them.
Второе,
Now, something else.
то качество клиентского сервиса.
We want to provide high-quality client service.
Это что-то, что не было 10 лет назад.
And 10 years ago, it was impossible because there were no technologies. All the technologies were at a very early stage. Only some geeks could use it.
И, в общем-то,
It wasn't comfortable. It was not seamless. Now it is, and it's very important to do it in a seamless way. Paying, sometimes it takes too much time to pay for something. That is why we need to make it as fast, as comfortable and convenient as possible. This will attract people to new technologies. And we see that the industry is ready for this, is ready to go a very long way in terms of introducing new ways of payment. 25% of all transactions are contactless through e-wallets, smartphones. How many cards do you have? Can you share the secret? We have 14.3 million active clients. We have a bit more than, we have more cards than that, but 14.3 million clients in our portfolio, that's what we have. Okay, thank you. Thank you for this. I really love figures because they help you to know where you are and what you're dealing with.
неудобная плата. 5 дней.
It's true. We, in our lives, spend 5 days in queues waiting to pay for what we want to buy. 5 days of our life goes into that, you see? It seems that this is not important. Is it per life or per year? Per year, per year. Can you imagine this? Oh my God, per year you lose 5 days. That's incredible. You see, you could have lost that time just like that. And you could have used it to read a book, to play tennis, I don't know. And we need to fight this. We need to fight this problem. Fight it with new technologies. Scan and go technologies. They're just one of the opportunities to make good progress. Amazon Go, by the way, they won this initiative in 2018. They've received a lot of investments. We have a lot of stores now with contactless payment terminals. You can just come with your smartphone and make a transaction. 2 years ago, we started doing some experiments. Major food chains and transportation chains now have been accepting payments with the use of your face. Facial recognition is just one way to do it. Alexander, do you think these, biometrics can help us, but people are really concerned about this? They don't want to share their personal data. They don't want to, scan their faces or something like that. Yes, a lot of people are afraid, but I want to explain something. We live in a wonderful time because we live in the times of many trends. Technologies are very advanced, and it has been proven that technologies are good, more reliable than human beings, because human beings make mistakes. That's one thing. Second, the new generation, they are frictionless. They want to pay to live without some unnecessary frictions, movements. They don't want to reach into their pocket for a smartphone. No, they don't want to do that. They want to do everything in an instant. So they want to automate transactions. They want automated transactions. We never thought it would happen that fast, but Apple, for instance, and similar companies, they are investing a lot of money and effort into Face ID, and you know that it's now part of our daily life. And these companies, they really triggered that huge leap of progress. A couple of years ago, people were so very much afraid of these technologies. Now, actually, my phone broke and it had Face ID. My old phone doesn't have Face ID, it has Touch ID, and it was painful for me to make that transition back into the past. So your face is the most convenient way to pay for something, to communicate, to access something. People know each other by their faces, and machines can do that too. You say biometrics, but it's not exactly the biometrics which was the biggest obstacle on the way to new technologies. Liveness. Liveness detection, that's the problem. Because a couple of years ago, you can come up with a photo of your neighbor and get his money. Yes, you can draw it on anything, on your, I don't know, trash bin. You could draw a face, and probably 3 to 5 years ago, a device would think it's a human being. Now, it's not like that. You have deep fakes, you have mannequins, and even they sometimes do not work. Yeah, it's deep fake now, that's the problem. It's like war today. Yes, there is that war. Criminals are very creative. It's hard to, outrace them because they don't follow rules, they don't have any regulations, they are free, their hands are not tied. Yes, that's arms race. But Russian banks and transaction companies, they are overpacing criminals. And that's because of several factors. We check location, we check liveness, we check a lot of things. And all in all, biometrics today is the safest method of authorization. Just look at the media. In Moscow, we don't really have a lot of uses of such facial recognition technologies, but in Moscow's metro, there are terminals with videos, CCTV, which captures your face and can identify you. I was part of the test group. We went to the headquarters of the Russian and Moscow metro operators, and it all works because at rush hour, it allows you to increase throughput by several times. A person in front of you can be looking through their pockets trying to find money or their ticket, and with their face it's just in 1 second. The speed of authorization is not the problem. It has never been the problem. It all went down to the mechanics of it. The tourniquets, the terminals, they're very old. Some of them are older than me. So they work slowly. Now, they have all been modernized and upgraded. They open and close really fast. Here's something else for you. We wanted to know how China is doing, and turns out Alipay helped every store to have a new terminal to allow face recognition payments. They sell around 2 million contactless facial recognition terminals. That's for Alipay alone. Okay, here's something interesting. There was that viral video. A young person is standing somewhere in China with his bags. He bought something. He turns away from the terminal. No, sorry. There was a girl. It was a girl. She was with bags. And she puts someone she doesn't know. and pays for her purchase with his face, of that guy she didn't know. That guy, he was astonished. He was like, oh my God, she just paid for her things with my money using my face. You see, that was a viral video, and maybe it's two now.
Какого-то действия, когда я нажимаю
We need to confirm that we do want something. But how do you do that with your face? When you press your finger, that's quite clear, you want it. But with your face, how do you do that? Should you wink? Should you close your eyes? How can you do that? That's true, but when you're sleeping, your finger can be used for transactions because you would not notice it sleeping. We are all family people. Yeah, that's true. Like my wife can do it, or maybe your husband can do it. Yes, there is that viral video. I know about it, but there is a couple of inconsistencies. A professional would notice them. First, paint with your face. These things, they notice the direction of your eyes where you're watching. Apple ID, if you have your eyes closed and you're looking somewhere to the side, it wouldn't let you in. Also, it was a self-payment terminal. And self-payment terminals, they all notice where you are directing your eyes to. And your facial recognition, facial features, whether you're smiling or not, is also important. Look at X5 Retail Group, Russia's retail chain. You have to use your finger to confirm it, even though it recognizes your face. So you can apply two factors in order to confirm a payment, right? Yes, that's one way to do that. 99% of scam schemes can be prevented by simple logic, like if a human being, if a person is trying to pay with a face but is not looking into the terminal, that transaction will not be accepted. Also, there is a cap, fee of 5,000 rubles. That's the cap for such transactions. This is around $40. Mikhail, let's imagine that we are living in 2030 now. Let's go into the future, okay? According to the data I have, 22% of people in Russia now pay only in the contactless way. They don't have cash on them. Is that true? More than that, a little bit more than that.
Will there be any new ways to pay for services in 2030? Maybe Visa has something to offer, not only to individuals, but to corporates. You know, I'm somewhat doubtful about QR codes. It doesn't seem like a natural way to pay. There should be something more intuitive. What's your take on that, Mikhail? I agree, Pavel. Speaking about QR codes, I do not think that in 2030 we'll remember about them. But there will be new formats of payments. They won't be entirely new. They exist now, but they will be used more actively for payment. That is something that I agree with. You know, when I was starting my career, people asked me what I thought would be used in 2025 for payment. And I thought, and I still think, that we won't be using any cards because we will be trying not to use plastic. Probably smartphones will be used for payment, but they won't be the main means of payment. I believe that biometrics will be used, and they will be the primary way to pay for goods and services. Together with X5 Retail Group and Sberbank, we tested biometric payment at Prime. This is a chain of cafes, and now we are moving on to X5 stores. And around 200 stores now accept payments using biometrics, and no one seems to be against it. Those who work at the checkout accepted the idea, and the clients who use it, of course, accepted the idea too. Another means of payment is payment by voice. For example, in a restaurant, when you have a smart speaker in a restaurant and you order your meal using it, and then you pay for your meal using this very smart speaker once again. And then you leave the restaurant and you don't really need to wait for the waiter to bring you the bill. For example, if you want to stay at a hotel and then you want to order room service, you will be talking to a smart speaker or a smart TV, and here is a new way for smart TVs to evolve. So you voice your order and you say that you want to pay for it. That's it. And I also think that the number of devices that actually accept payments will be growing, because the Internet of Things will be integrating more and more devices into this payment infrastructure. Somehow smart devices will be accepting payments, something that you can find on the street. And thanks to biometrics, we won't actually need to have people at the checkout. It will be all self-service. That, I think, is our 2030. But those solutions, I think, will be transitional too. I've read an article about a fridge that accepts payments. Maybe that will be a common practice. Do you think that at some point fridges will be accepting payments? Well, Pavel, I think that is a matter of years. Some people now talk about it. It is not something that we use widely. But we need a tipping point here where this Internet of Things will be growing exponentially. I think we should wait for a couple of years, and that will be our reality. Thank you for the forecast, Mikhail. Juan Pablo, so I have a question. Do you think that at some point we'll be able to pay for our food using our fridges or not? Or order food, for that matter?
Well, it sounds futuristic, but today we have an integration with Samsung smart fridges. And basically outside you have a big screen, and we have a Rappi application. You can just or Rappi Turbo, which is deliveries in less than 10 minutes. And today, people in different parts of Latin America are ordering and paying for their groceries using their fridge. So it sounds kind of like something that is not going to happen, but it's happening right now. Samsung has smart fridges, and I think this is going to keep evolving. But I think that the future is going to be in voice. We have an integration with Alexa, with Siri, and today you're going to be able to say, hey, I want to order milk, I want a pizza, and I want it in Rappi. And just with that, we already save your card information, we already have your account, and you're going to be just waiting maybe 10, 15 minutes until your groceries or your food arrives.
Juan Pablo, а сколько пользователей МАО вашего приложения?
Juan Pablo, and how many users do you have monthly? How many active users monthly do you have?
So we have 64 million registered users in the application. And I don't have right now the number of monthly users, but we have, like in the application, we have 64 million users.
Вы видите shift?
And could you please tell us what types of payments are becoming more popular, say, throughout the last year?
Yeah, so number one, I would say is bank account payments. This changes a lot per country. So in Colombia, there is a system called PSE, and it's a system where you put your ID and then you log into your bank account, and that's a way people are paying, and it's the new kind of payment method in Colombia. In Mexico, we're seeing an increase of debit and credit cards. People are moving more into getting a credit card. The penetration is still slow, but it's growing triple digits year over year, and more with the pandemic. And then in other parts of the region, like in Brazil, credit cards are really popular. Debit cards are not allowed to transact online. And we're seeing an increase of new technologies like 3DS 2.0, which are allowing these debit cards to be used online and using mobile applications.
То есть с помощью технологий
So, if my understanding is correct, you can use technology to kind of circumvent this regulatory framework and pay with debit cards online, right?
Yes. And I think more than a regulatory issue in the region is a matter of fraud. Fraud levels in Brazil and Mexico are huge, and issuers are afraid of letting people use their debit card online. They're afraid that the information is going to leak and they're going to have their account money vanished from one day to another one. And what we're seeing to fight that is things like network tokenization. So are ways where you can add your debit card or credit card online without having to add the 16 digits of your debit card. And for example, at Rappi, we remove the card numbers from the card because it doesn't make any sense that your card number is in the physical card. People can take a picture of it and steal it. So the only way where you have the card information is in your smartphone. And if you want to use it in Rappi, or if you want to use it somewhere else, you can just copy and paste it. You don't need to have the information in the physical card. And I think these are the kind of changes that are helping to reduce fraud and are helping people to be able to use things like the debit card online.
У нас вот ситуация немножко обратная. Хуан Пабло сказал, что они убирают номера карт, дабы их не воровали, не использовали.
I see. So you get rid of physical card number altogether to save people from fraud. I saw a very different trend this year where what we decided to do is we too decided to add all of the information that is containing on the card into the app. So it's not only the card of the number of the card, but also SVV, and we're using double authentication to save this information. Why is it still a problem that you have a physical number of the card? Could you please comment on that?
For other banks or for Rappi?
Ну, наверное, почему это является проблемой в регионе? Вот в России это не является проблемой, или, коллеги, поправьте меня. То есть,
Maybe I am mistaken, but in Russia, it is not enough to steal someone's card number, you know, to commit a fraud. No, you just need an additional level of security. So we use double authentication in apps, and that's it. So mobile apps that have your card number, they are well protected from any fraud, from any attempt to steal your information. And people who are criminals and who want to steal your money, they actually lure you into giving that information to them, and they do not actually hack your app. For example, in your application, do you use this double authentication for users to get to their card information?
So we do have the second factor authentication, and we have 3D Secure and all of these secure ways of using your car online. The issue is with merchant acceptance. Most of the merchants, if you look at, for example, Amazon doesn't require the CVV. They only require the car number and the expiration. So if you go to a restaurant and you pay and the server takes a picture of your car, they have all the information that they need to make a $2,000 transaction in Amazon. And even though we have the second factor authentication, the transaction can get approved because it has all the information that it needs to get approved. So by removing the information from the physical car, you just reduce the risk that someone else is gonna use the car. This is changing, and I think maybe in Russia it's not the case. Maybe in Russia, most of the merchants, they require the second factor authentication. I think that the Latin America region is a couple of years behind, and we have to find new ways, and we have to find innovative ways to reduce frauds where second factor authentication when paying is not something that is actually common in the region.
Спасибо большое за пояснение.
I see. Thank you for the clarification. I see what was the issue here. I think in Russia the merchants won't sell you anything with only a card number. You will also need to give a CVV number. And I also heard you about this smart fridges. That is a very nice initiative. But what do you think will happen in 2030, please? Slava?
Это должно быть там, где шайба будет, а не там, где она есть. Это вы там, где шайба, да? А мы должны как бы, куда вы метите ваши потоки, ваше внимание.
What do you think will happen in 2030? I believe that in the next 10 years, we will see that payment will merge with another action, say an action of consumption. Before, those were two actions. You buy, you pay for that. You eat at a restaurant, you pay for that. I think that these two will merge, and you will not have to proceed with all of these payment actions separately. What I'm saying is that we won't be paying in the sense that all of the payment will be carried out automatically. We'll have smart payment, some kind of a centralized token that I can activate for various types of use. So every time I do something, the money will simply be wired to the merchant. And that's it. I will not have to pull out my credit card or my smartphone. Probably something like that. You see, today, for instance, when you want to park your car somewhere in Moscow downtown, you have to pay right away, and you do that manually, right? You pull out your smartphone, you press pay. If you don't pay in time, you will have a ticket. They will write you a ticket. And it should be done automatically. The payment for your parking lot should be processed automatically. And it should be an integration between companies, and in the case of my example, Moscow government. And cutting-edge payment technologies are penetrating such areas as car sharing and other new technologies that are becoming more and more popular with people. And I believe these new technologies, new payment technologies, will be penetrating our life, our daily life. What we also need to be aware of is that we need to be more conscious about the way we spend our money. And then we'll be able to follow our spending, but to do so in a very efficient manner when all of the payments are done automatically. Thank you, Slava. I know that these new payment methods are a way for corporations and major companies to make sure that payment process becomes more and more comfortable for us and that it actually makes us buy more. Currently, I see that in Russia people are not, if I might put it this way, financially literate enough. Sometimes we give away information to criminals who take advantage of that and who use this to steal our money. Maybe if we start to use all of these new payment methods, they will steal all of our money. I mean, criminals. Well, I wouldn't be so pessimistic because, at least in our countries, regulators, they are very particular about testing out new payment formats, and there is a lot of scrutiny. And they will not they will not approve a new payment method if there are some concerns about its security. But of course, people should be aware of this new digital reality. We have our new generation growing, and all of these people whom we call digital immigrants, they know how to do things today digitally. And I believe that digital native will be even better. But the payoff from this process where we have new technologies emerging and when companies work with regulators, I mean, it has so many benefits. Thank you, Slava. We have a round of 4 minutes left. So, Alexander, my question goes to you now. You're a technocrat indeed, a tech person to the core. And now you are an entrepreneur. Let's talk about automation. Artificial intelligence is still weak. When will we see devices and machines who will understand what we need? And when will it be safe enough to delegate decision-making to the machines?
Ниши, где можно совершить прорыв, особенно что будет через несколько лет. Но для меня, на самом деле, это что будет.
I see this trend. I believe that we will not only see biometrics developing, but we will see new system that will analyze, say, both face and behavior. Say, today any smartphone tracks the way we walk or the way we type. And that is something that I think will develop. If today we invest billions of dollars into face recognition technologies, probably we'll improve their performance by 0.5%. So what we should do is we should take a more integrated approach where we would use not only face recognition but also behavior recognition. So we'll have many channels through which we'll be gathering data about a person's behavior.
Now, AR. It's another track what we hope and we believe will be very, very successful. A lot of companies now believe in AR. It's not VR, please. Don't mix them. AR is aided computer vision, it's wearables, it's lots of things which are going to be helping you to navigate the world, to do payments, and lots of other things. Loyalty programs, transactions, that will be just one simple action, because right now when I go to Starbucks I have to do lots of things. They ask me like, who are you? What's your name? Do you have a discount card? We have a special offer today. Do you want to listen to what we have to offer today as our specialty? It takes so much time. Now with the help of AR you can just wink or look in the direction of your choosing. That will mean you want to pay, you want to listen to an ad about the offer of the day, you want to validate your loyalty card, all with one wink. Lots and lots of routine operations. Refueling a car, paying for your parking will be more convenient.
Но здесь статистически можно достаточно
Statistically, that can reduce a lot of time wasted.
то же самое.
And usually I go to a petrol station, fuel station, only when the tank is empty. So it's easy to predict when I will need that, right? Okay, raise your hands, those who refuel their car without leaving the car, actually. Have you tried that contactless payments for fuel, for petrol? I'm not talking about beer, listen, I'm talking about cars, okay?
Большое количество, но это, наверное, там 2 года.
Not so many people here.
Точно я уже вижу, что
I think in 2 years or 3 years it will be very different. I see that not only Moscow but regions
кстати, про
which are quite remote to Moscow now also have that new contactless payments at petrol stations. In Kazan, in this city, there is digital loyalty system. It does things like that. It allows you to pay and get additional points and scores, loyalty
коллеги,
scores, all these things,
благодарить наших спикеров.
all seamlessly. Now, this is the end of our session. I would like to thank our speakers for all the ideas and insights that they have shared. I hope the startups noted it all down. Mihail, Juan Pablo, Slava, Alexander, thank you so much. And I welcome you to continue our travel through time and space here at Startup Village.
Подписание.
Right now, we will be giving space to a signing ceremony with one of the biggest banks
Топ-10.
here. It's part of the top 10
В общем, такая
banks of Russia, top 3 private banks.
сейчас у нас
So stay here, we'll have signing ceremony. Thank you. Muchísimas gracias and goodbye.
температурах окружающей среды тела быстро теряют энергию. Но нахождение вблизи источника тепла позволяет телу получать тепловое излучение. Происходит самопроизвольное перераспределение тепла. Следовательно, когда источники тепла находятся вместе, их энергия побеждает холод. Лучшее создается вместе. Газпромбанк.
МТС Стартап Хаб. Работа с реальным бизнес-заказчиком МТС. Доступ к ресурсам самого крупного телеком-бренда в России. Не можешь поверить? А в твой стартап обязательно поверят. У нас есть все, что тебе понадобится. Ресурсы, клиенты, технологии, каналы продаж. Мы оценим твой продукт, правильно применим в своем бизнесе и масштабируем на мировой рынок. МТС Стартап Хаб ждет тебя и твоих нереальных бизнес-идей.